Kia ora, welcome to the Guerin Report. I hope your weekend was fantastic. Congratulations to all of our winners out of the great meeting at Trentham on Saturday. I know plenty of you may be going back to work today after your Christmas holiday break. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Don't worry, we've got plenty of great racing coming up over the next couple of weeks. Karaka Million next week, of course, rolling into the sales at Karaka. So lots to keep you entertained here on Trackside. Talking about entertaining, there's no one in racing more entertaining than Bjorn Baker, so we took the opportunity to talk to him about all things racing and the huge character which has become Bjorn Baker Australasian-wide. Here's he in his own unique style. Well, here we are, Bjorn, in Sydney. Did you feel like this was your new home as soon as you moved here? Because you just have this Sydney feel to you.
Well, great to have you here, Mick, and I must say it's been over 13 years that I've been here with my wife and family now, so time's flowing. But I was a pharmacist in my young 20s for 3.5 years in Sydney, so I guess that that was why I came over. I knew the lay of the land. My wife had some family here at that stage, and it's been a great move. Had a heck of a lot of fun.
Some people watching this at home would think, why would somebody go through the effort of qualifying as a pharmacist and then give it up to get out of bed at 3:30 in the morning?
Yeah, tough one, I guess. Well, 4 years at Otago was pretty good too. If any of you have been there, I must say, it was well worth getting the degree.
You must have paid some attention. You did qualify.
Yeah, just. But no, pharmacy was a great degree, actually. It was a great 4 years of my life in Dunedin, and then I was able to travel. I came to Sydney for 3.5 years and then had 4 years in Europe, 2 years in London and 2 years in Dublin. So yeah, it was fantastic. And actually pharmacy taught me a lot about common sense, a lot of things that I still probably use today.
It's funny, you are naturally effervescent. You're a very bubbly sort of character. Did you always feel a little bit noisy for New Zealand? And that's no disrespect to our Kiwi viewers, but did you always feel like your motor was running a bit fast for back home?
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, I think, see, I've got a motto, right? Better to be thought of a fool than open your mouth and confirm it until you come to Australia, and then you're just better to be known, full stop. And that's a bit what it's like here. You got to get out, you got to attack, and throw as many darts as you can, and hopefully one or two will hit.
Is that hard? Like, it's easy when you win, I suppose. When you win big races, it's easy to be the larrikin and carry on. But when you're losing, people, I get the feeling now, want the same Bjorn Baker. They want the fun one and the happy one and the confident one, which can't be as easy when you've lined up 10 and they've all got beat.
That's right. Hard to have fun when you've done your ass. That's another one of my quotes. But it's a battle. But I guess racing, you've got to be resilient. You've got to ride the highs and the lows. There's always, and we're lucky in Australia, there's always another race, often the next day, often later that afternoon. But it's definitely, it's tough at times, especially in big races when you think you've got a big chance and you've got horses that can really make a difference and things don't quite work out. But that's part of it. You've got to take the good with the bad, and I guess it's life in general.
Does it become a brand? I mean, obviously the horses produce the results, and you've had a lot of great results, so therefore you don't have to play up to it. But does it become part of your brand so that some 30-year-old bloke watching this on Insta goes, oh, I want a horse with him, he looks like a bit of fun? Is it a branding exercise too, to be fun, or is that just naturally who you are?
Oh, I think it's probably a combination of both. I do like having a lot of fun, and I tend to enjoy it, win, lose, or draw. And yeah, I've been lucky. I love the game. There's some amazing characters too, so it's hard not to have fun at times. Even a lot of my great clients, they've got amazing stories themselves. They're amazing people, and you can really have a lot of fun. You get to know people, and I enjoy it. But at the same time, you've got to be competitive. You've got to be relevant, and to do that, you need nice horses and you need to win races. And I say, even Sydney, a lot of the time I don't like travelling horses unless I think they're really serious chances, because Sydney is my home. We've got to stay relevant in the Sydney market, and it's very competitive here.
You obviously spent a lot of time in New Zealand growing up and training with your dad. We'll get to him in a second. Was it hard to watch the struggles back home over the last 10 years and watching horses racing for 7,000?
Yeah, I guess it sort of, I grew up and a lot of people think that when I grew up Murray was a superstar, but that wasn't always the case. He had a very good horse, good run in the early 1990s, horses like the Phantom, Eagle Eye, Starring, who's actually the Grand Dam of Dundee. But then he had a pretty flat patch for a long time until he moved up to Cambridge. I mean, my mum moved up there in the early 2000s, I think, or maybe late 1990s. So it was definitely a little bit of a battle, and I've seen him go through that and the highs and lows. But then I guess the last 10 years of his career was amazing. He had some amazing horses, Dundee, Mongolian Khan, John Snow, 5 Derby winners, and a lot of them came through my stable, and a few of them in partnership with Andrew too. So I was sort of seeing the real side of it growing up in Woodville, and when you leave Woodville, no disrespect to anyone at Woodville, but there's no such thing as homesickness.
Let's talk about what your dad taught you on the horse front. I'm sure he taught you some other things too, but what philosophies of training did he instill in you, and are they still the cornerstone of how you train today?
Yeah, definitely a little bit different, Murray, in terms of how he, and it's different racing. Sydney's probably sort of more speed-centric. A lot of the tracks are tighter, generally faster surfaces, and it's probably less, you don't need your horses as fit. You need them to have more speed in their legs, and the races often aren't run quite as quickly, so it becomes more tactical. So it's about having that tactical speed when you need it. So definitely a little bit different. I guess Murray was quite phenomenal though in the terms of how he actually changed his training style. He really eased up on them and was able to get them to a fitness state, and I think that's what really helped him have remarkable success over the back end of his career. He was able to alter to what he needed to. So definitely it's horse for horse, it's course for course. You just try and get the horses right on the day, especially in the big races.
How often do you talk to Dad? Obviously he retired a couple of years ago. Do you pester him, or how often does he ring you with a bit of fatherly advice?
Daily.
Every day?
Every day, just about. Every time I have a loser, you got those tactics wrong. Why haven't you got McDonald on? I'm like, because I didn't win the lotto this week, mate. I can't get him.
Every day?
Often after a race day, definitely every race day, you often give me a ring, and but he loves it. He loves following it. He still loves racing. That's his core passion. He loves sports and racing, and no, but he's got some wise words. Just it's a little bit harder when you don't quite train the calibre of horse that he had at times.
You mentioned the difference in training. Is it a different type of animal here? You mentioned the fact that people want speed, they want slippers and golden roses and those type of things. Do you have to look for a different animal now because the Sydney market is your home?
We sort of, instead of races like that, we're more sort of Coolmore, Quokka, Winterbottom, Stradbrokes, but similar.
Still pretty good
enough.
Still pretty good.
But it is definitely, it's sort of like, it's funnily enough, Murray had a reputation as a staying trainer, and I've probably, if anything, got a reputation as a sprinting trainer here. So it's definitely, from that point of view, it's been reversed.
Maybe it's your attention span.
Well, that's true. I do say. I said, mate, I haven't got time to concentrate on your horses and the jumps in between, and it's definitely. Yeah, it's just different. It's funny how it's worked out. I've had a lot of success. I won the Magic Millions when I came over early, and with a 2-year-old and early 2-year-old, but that's something I'm still working on.
Your dad was never a big yearling sales spender, and you seem quite crafty at picking out the right horses. Is there still this looking for bargains rather than looking to those big ticket $1 million items that some people seem to actually like spending money on?
Well, and those people that like spending money on those sort of horses, I like you. So please get in contact.
You're open for business?
I'm open for business. But I guess the thing is you need numbers. You need numbers, Mick. Without numbers, you've just got to put them through. And I think I've got a pretty good system where we can identify the good horses. And
what do you like in a horse at the sales? Some people don't like small ears, and some people don't like horses. Lots of different things. Some people like big horses, some people like small horses. What do you like?
A fully sold horse. I love them. I really do like them. But it's funny, even a lot of my good horses, they come in all shapes and sizes, and I guess it's just a balancing act between pedigree, type, and actually buying a horse that people want too. It's no good buying a horse that I love and you get stuck with the horse. So it's about probably balancing the risks and trying to take out the risks for our clients. And at the end of the day, we all want a return, or at least, if not a return, in monetary value in terms of having fun and having some sort of result.
You mentioned buying for Sydney, but you've been very active at Karaka over the last 10 years. What do you like about New Zealand horses, and what are you looking for when you go there?
Well, I guess, it's funny because even though I've been in Sydney for a long time now, I still tell every Australian or there's a lot of internationals, Europeans that come to the trainers' tower at Warwick Farm. I say, listen, the dominant trainer and the dominant jockey in Australia are both Kiwis. Don't forget that.
You're not talking about yourself.
I'm not talking about myself, unfortunately. But
do you? Oh, okay. There's going to be some Aussies watching this. There's going to be some Kiwis watching this. Do you think, because of the population spread and the fact that a lot of Kiwis are still rural people, do you think New Zealanders are better horse people than Australians on the whole?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good horse people from all over the world, and a lot of good Australian horse people. So I think well, Waller's the best trainer in the world, no doubt about it. And unfortunately, I have to meet him every day. And McDonald's the best jockey in the world. I think it's probably safe to say. And unfortunately, I can't get him on enough. So it is tough, and that's one reason I think why travelling horses out of New South Wales to other part of Australia, they're in really good shape when they're competing in Sydney and going elsewhere. But back to the New Zealand horses, I guess you've only got to look at the New Zealand horses. The results they've had are just way above what they should be for the numbers of runners over here. So there's no doubt New Zealand continues to produce great racehorses. Definitely there's something with the people firstly, the ground second, and I think our breeders get it right too. So every time they've got that NZ suffix on, you've got a chance of not just getting a good horse, but a really good horse. They really can compete on the big days, and often the big days here, it's when the races are true tempo, the ground can often be a little bit testing, and when tough needs to shine through. I think the New Zealand horses do that pretty well, and the New Zealand people do as well.
I had a conversation with Mick Price, who's a very smart guy, at the sales in New Zealand last year, and he was telling me about how all the goodness in the soil means that we grow bigger strawberries in Australia, and it's the same with horses. It was an awesome comment. I mean, you're a qualified pharmacist. Do you believe that New Zealand's a better place to grow horses because of all that stuff in the ground Mick was talking about?
The best strawberries in the world, without doubt, are in Sweden.
Oh.
That's because in the middle of summer they get about 22 hours of sunlight a day.
Don't tell Mick Price that. He'll be upset.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, great strawberries. But anyway, they do the strawberry summer sponge cake with cream. Unbelievable. Haven't you been up there for the Lillehammer?
I've been about 8 times, but I'm not sure where we were going with this.
Anyway, I think it's probably a combination of things, and at the end of the day, stats really do talk for New Zealand horses, and often you go back, you get a little bit of a discount with the Australian dollar, and there's a big demand from my clients in Australia to buy New Zealand bred horses, and I guess that comes about from every time this spring and autumn come about. They generally hit at least a few big goals.
Okay, let's start a list. What we're going to call BB's best, Bjorn Baker's bests. What's the best horse you've ever seen?
Oh, I've got to say Winx, unfortunately. So the last time Winx got beaten, she actually got beaten by a fellow Kiwi trainer, John Sargent, and it was in the ATC Oaks. And I had one of the favourites that day, Candelara, and she got to the corner. She was in front. And Winx actually took off, and I think she just used all her petrol getting to Candelara, and gust of wind was able to get over the top and win. So that's my Winx claim to fame, running third when she was last beaten and ran second to gust of wind. But what I guess what she did for really 4 consecutive spring and autumns, unbelievably tough. Of course, amazing training effort, and the family goes back to a Kiwi family as well.
So, on your best, what's your best win? What was your favourite win? Because when I think of you, I know I now think of the Quokka, but I always think of Lion Hunter and the VRC Derby.
Yeah,
Lion Tamer, and you just nutting off.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal day that day, and I guess he was very important in terms of coming over to Australia. He gave me the sort of option. I remember saying to Murray, look, I'm going to move to Australia, and he said, I said, look, we'll stay in partnership. We've got Lion Tamer, this horse is superstar, you know. I was looking after him a little bit, and he said, son, if you go, you're on your own. So we had a little bit of a fallout after that. And funnily enough, that was probably the hardest thing he could do. But at the time, it was the best thing because I've ended up with a completely different client base. I actually went and saw Sir Patrick Hogan when I was coming over too. I knocked on his office door, I organised a meeting. I think it was about 10:30 in the morning, Sir Patrick. And Sir Patrick is a god. He's a god to me, and very nervous. Went in, I sat down, Sir Patrick, I'm moving to Sydney, would love to train a horse for you. I'd love to get those colours in the stable. You no chance. Stay with your father for another 10 years. You're no chance. The hardest place to train a horse in the world. And I actually remember driving out of the gate, I think I cried. I thought far out. So,
inspirational words.
Well, a couple of those things they do, they make you more resilient and tough. You know, like you've got
Did you ever train a horse for him?
Yeah, he ended up giving me a horse after a couple of years. Unfortunately, I didn't have any luck, and it's funny how it works out.
He was right.
Yeah.
You should have said no. What about best trainer? Who's on the best list? I'll give you a couple. Best trainers?
Oh, I think, Mr. Waller, Chris.
Mr. Mr.
Well, that's how he talks, he run, Mr. He's phenomenal. He's very much meticulous, so he does not miss anything. He'd be a much more accurate pharmacist than me if he was still working. He doesn't make mistakes, and he's got an amazing bunch of horses, so he's very hard to beat. He also is very good at getting any advantage in terms of jockeys and making it as hard as he can for his opponents, which is what any good sportsman does. So he's amazing. Gay Waterhouse is a freak too. She's and I'm a massive fan of her, what she's done for racing in Sydney.
She's a truly unique individual, isn't she?
Yep.
You never meet anybody else like her.
She's a marketing genius, and she's got the results to back it up. And she's always been very good to me. That's just in Sydney. It's very tough. You've got the whole Cummings brigade. We see James Cummings. You've got at Warwick Farm now. We've got Guerin. He's got big numbers. Is very well organised and is getting big results. It's definitely competitive. You know you're in the game when you're here. You see their horses every day. You see Godolphins. You see Wallers. He's at Warwick Farm as well. We've got Annabelle Neesham, Rob Archibald, Gary Portelli, Matt Smith. The sort of list goes on and on. I've probably missed a couple. Joe Pride.
It's a tough school.
Joe Pride, of course, his mother's from Oamaru and he grew up in Oamaru. He's a Kiwi too. He doesn't claim it though, so we're happy to ditch him.
You talk about Guerin. Really interesting. They have a really strong, innovative approach to data. Are you more of a data trainer, or are you still to the eye?
Yeah, I think that my father, he never did any data. He never did any speed maps. He never did any of that sort of stuff. And
that doesn't surprise me.
About common sense. And I think, once again, it's another great tool. We use all the heart rate trackers. We put the heart rate monitors on all our horses up and going, our 2-year-olds. And you do get an idea. At times, Osmosis was a freak of a horse, and his heart rate and data off that was unbelievable. And I was up at the stallion parades, and Chris, I said that, and Chris was actually talking about militarising the same day, and he said Zoostar was the best heart rate recovery he's ever seen. And so Osmosis was one that you can really say that worked. But then I've got other good horses, and it's not quite. So it is a really good tool, but it's another tool in the box. And I'd still be big on how they gallop to the eye, how they come off the track. And yeah, I think that gives you a better indication than anything, and often the data will just back it up. But the data in terms of Guerin Mars are really good marketing. They use it to market and push out, but I think it's another tool used with everything.
Continuing our BB's best lists, who are the best jockeys you've seen?
Once again, I think Hugh Bowman was a phenomenal jockey. He was amazing and still is. He's in Hong Kong, and I think sort of James has really come up under him. And one thing about James, he's really good to deal with. Even when you have a not so good a result, he's always positive. He always gives the owners something to hold on to. So from that point of view, he does a lot of work behind actually riding, getting the results. He's impossible to get on. You've got Mark Guest as agent. Every time I see Mark, I say, mate, you know, he should be a jail keeper.
Have you considered bribery?
I've tried everything, and even we say to Mark, I say, you know, like he puts hold, yeah, mate, yeah, I'll text you, I'll get back to you. So essentially he wants the field and gates before you get James on. So it's a tough ask, but he's exceptional. I've had a lot of luck with Jason Collett. He's a great rider. He's going super. And I've had a lot of luck with Rachel King and Josh Parr, who predominantly ride for me and are both great to deal with too. And so there's some of that too, some of the work that someone like Rachel King and Josh Parr both do behind the scenes that is really unheralded. So it's not just about the big race day success, it's about a lot of the work in terms of educating the horses and getting them there in great order.
You're on your way, well and truly, winning $5 million races. What's the race that you want the most? What's the one that in here you want to win?
Oh, the Golden Slipper would be a standout. That's an iconic Sydney race. It's about speed, it's about early speed, and that's fantastic. As well as that, Gary Portelli's won it twice. I have to see him every day, but he's a good mate. But it's really, I think Chris was lucky enough to win it a few years ago. It is the race that really is Sydney-centric. Second to that, you've got the Everest, but you haven't quite got the prestige of the Slipper and nothing.
Would it also be an extension of a commercial launch pad for you? If you win a Slipper, you can say to people, let's go buy $1 million colt because we know how to win Slippers.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, and that is a big part of it. You're able to get new investment in. A lot of the big investors are after that next superstar stallion, and the next superstar stallion, if they win the Slipper, they're 90% there. So that's a big part of it. Osmosis winning the Coolmore last year for me was a big step in that direction, but a race like the Coolmore would just make it better, and a lot of those commercial realities around it you have to take into account.
There is a lot of chat about politics in Sydney and Australian-wide about racing politics. Does that interest you? Do you get involved in it, or are you too busy being you to really be worried about what's going on in the higher echelons of racing?
Anyway, I got a winner in the last today, Mick. We'll win. Just
that's
get
all you
on,
care
just
about?
punt. I've got a winner.
Train, punt,
If we
rinse,
back
repeat.
enough winners and train enough winners, it's irrelevant. But yeah, it's for sure. It's something you've got to think about. You wonder about the new generation, and maybe racing isn't quite as positive as it was. So I think we really have to talk up our good stories, how well the horses are cared for, and I think any stable in Sydney, people would be amazed, and New Zealand, how well the horses are, and Australia, full stop. Generally, the horses are better looked after than my kids, and I can probably say that with a bit of truth, unfortunately.
They're more expensive than your kids too.
Exactly. So
It's going well, very well. As you said, you won the Coolmore. It's one of the big, maybe 10 big ticket items people want to win. What do you want Bjorn Baker Racing to look like in 5 or 10 years? Have you thought where you want this to go? And I'm not just talking wins, but the shape of the business and the way the business operates, and in fact, how you train.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm very happy where I'm at, and really it's probably about focusing on getting better quality horses, better quality owners. I've got actually great owners at the moment, and it's just about trying to improve that quality, stay relevant in Sydney, try and win my fair share of big races, and keep it real and try and have a lot of fun at the same time.
There's some really interesting things happening back home. basically a $10 million Champions Day. Is that on your radar, or does it become on your radar a month out? An NZB Kiwi, does that interest you? All those things, because you do have that New Zealand connection, and it's big money. Do you want to be involved, or being during the carnival here, is it tricky to shop in both places?
Yeah, it's well, I'll tell you, I've only taken one horse back to New Zealand. It was a horse called Celtic Prince, and I thought he could win the Auckland Cup, and we went back there. I think we backed him from 30s into second favourite. He was about $6. Brendan Abdallah rode him, a kilo overweight, and then lost his stick, and we got beaten by Who Shot the Barman, one of New Zealand's greatest stayers. So how do you know? So I definitely have unfinished business back there. I want to get back there, and it's just about trying to find the right horse for the right race. But it's great money, and if nothing else, I think my sprinters, or one or two of them, would be very competitive back there.
Okay, Karaka's around the corner. Back shopping, we be back shopping, and if someone's watching this and they go, oh look, he's a bit different. I like him. I could handle a bit of that humour in my life every week. How do people get involved in that process? If you go to Karaka and you pay $200 for one, is that pre-sold? Are there people can watch this and get involved in that? Because I've always wondered how trainers, who they let in through the door.
Just come and say g'day first and foremost. I'm always up for a chat, and just look up the website bjornbakerracing.com.au, or just Google Bjorn Baker horse trainer. There's no other Bjorn's training in our neck of the wood. I still can't pronounce my name, but we're always looking for new clients. We keep it real. Unfortunately, they can't all be fast, but we'll make our best effort.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It's always a pleasure to talk to Bjorn, and he'll be at the Karaka sales coming up shortly, along with plenty of us, and he'll keep rolling out those New Zealand bred winners. Talking about breeding winners in this country, we have so many great studs, and one of them, in a very rare opportunity, now for sale. The Oaks stud just outside Cambridge is on the market. One of our great nurseries, of course, so topical at the moment. They own and have been the people behind Savaglee. So there's this magnificent facility, as mentioned. It's 200 hectares on the verge of Cambridge, right up against residential property. Now, owner Dick Carriman is recalibrating some of his finances, so it has gone on to the market. So, what happens to it? Well, Rick Williams, the manager of the Oaks, has said, we would love to see it stay as a racing precinct. We would love somebody to come in and buy it for that purpose. But of course, someone could buy it for another reason. It could be an incredibly big investment when you think of where it is and the way the Cambridge region is growing outwards. So a sad time for Rick and the team and for Dick Carriman, but a massive opportunity for somebody else. Hard to believe one of our great studs is potentially going under the hammer. Rick Williams suggesting to me, with the sales just around the corner, there could be people coming out to New Zealand who haven't seen the facility, who could be coming for a look at this magnificent place. The Oaks stud, part of New Zealand racing's history, on the market as we speak. Clint Donovan doing the deal based in Australia, but so well known here in New Zealand. If you want to know more, ring Rick or Clint, get hold of them and try to get an inspection tour around that Karaka time. But very special property and the home of some very special horses, as you saw, like Sea Change & Co. Good luck to Dick and Rick and everybody involved with that sale. He is hoping it stays in New Zealand, and he is hoping it stays as a racing precinct. That's the Guerin Report, almost done for this Monday night. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Next week on the show, a very rare one-on-one sit-down with Sir Peter Vella, the man who helped create the Karaka Millions, the man who helped keep Karaka and New Zealand bloodstock in New Zealand racing. We talked to him about all things racing. Next week on the show, it's a real privilege to do so. That's next Monday on Trackside and trackside.co.nz at 8 p.m.